I am the canary kept by the Bigwig. He is generous and willing to spoil my little temper. However, I flew away when he loved me the most. He gritted his teeth and swore, "Mary, if I'm bewitched by you again, I'll be your grandson." Later, unable to bear the torture of missing me, he went to a small town thousands of kilometers away to find me. The always noble John family's person in power coaxed me in a low voice, "Lady, leave that scumbag. I'll be the father of your 2 children and give them all my property. Why are you crying?" The man's voice was hoarse and low, and he gently bit my ear bone. I weakly crawled outwards. He raised his hand and grabbed my ankle, dragging me back under him. "Doesn't my darling seem to welcome me back?" He was dissatisfied. I pounded his chest, my voice already hoarse from shouting, "John, I've welcomed you for hours. Isn't that enough?" "Not enough." He held my face and kissed away the falling tears one by one. "It's never enough. I know that the more I resist, the more excited John becomes. He just likes to tease me and watch me get angry but unable to escape his palm." So I calmed down and hooked my arm around his neck, softly begging for mercy. "Please stop. I'm really tired. You've also taken a flight for more than 10 hours and need to rest." John's dark eyes were deep, and he began to think seriously. After a few seconds, he seemed to agree with me. He lay on his side beside me, his fingertips entwined with my sweaty hair. "I'll come back earlier to have dinner with you tomorrow and you'll make up for what you owe me then." His eyes were gloomy. I was so weak that I didn't even have the strength to speak. I mumbled and snuggled into his arms. John rubbed me into his arms, but his body tensed up again. After coaxing me to sleep, he took a cold shower in the bathroom before going to bed. I am the canary kept by John. Every time he comes back from a business trip, he is like a hungry wolf and is extremely demanding. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have other women. However, I never dreamed of being with him forever, because I'm just a cannon fodder female supporting role. I'm a tool for him to solve his strong physical needs before the female lead comes back. Later, when the female lead who went abroad for further study returned to China, John immediately cut off all ties with the female supporting role. The female supporting role, who should have disappeared after getting a huge compensation, was unwilling to be used and abandoned. She began to pester the male lead and frame the female lead. However, the wise male lead easily saw through the true face of the female supporting role. To avenge the female lead, he sold the female supporting role to the underground trading market. I in the novel got a dirty disease and died a miserable death. Don't touch me. I had the same nightmare again. In the dream, the wretched man with a distorted smile stretched out his crooked hands and claws and approached me. I called John for help, but he looked indifferent and left with the female lead in his arms, leaving me to be bullied and humiliated. I woke up in shock, and my nightgown as thin as a cicada's wing was soaked with cold sweat. The lace skirt was torn by John last night. I wrapped myself in a down quilt so that I wouldn't shiver from the cold. This nightmare has haunted me for a long time. As the female lead's return is getting closer and closer, my fear is growing stronger and stronger. John has always been self-disciplined. Even though he was up until midnight last night, he still went to the company early today. The phone rang and he sent me a message. "The gifts are in the cloakroom. Look at them after eating. Be good and don't lose weight. Wait for me to come back at night." I ran to the cloakroom barefoot. 3 limited edition bags were neatly placed on the dressing table, diluting the gloom of the nightmare. I took the bags and took several selfies with poses and sent them to John. He quickly replied to me, "Darling, don't tempt me. You're not wearing shoes again. Are you itchy?" I immediately thought of the scene where John caught me not wearing shoes once and angrily pressed me on his lap and spanked me. My ears turned red and I immediately replied to him with a naughty expression, "I'll put them on right away." After replying, I didn't leave the cloakroom. Instead, I sent the photos of the bags to the second-hand luxury dealer I had long-term cooperation with. The other side repeatedly confirmed with me, "These are all limited editions that just hit the market and can't be bought even with a markup. Are you sure you want to sell them?" I replied, "Sure, I'm sure of money." The other side immediately replied, "Okay, I'll transfer the money to you according to the previous rules." After finishing these, I wrapped a shawl and went downstairs to the dining room on the first floor. Nanny has watched John and the female lead Alice grow up since childhood. Just like all the NPCs in the novel, she is crazy about this couple. So, She has always disliked me. Seeing me coming downstairs slowly, she said in a strange tone. The young master has been running around outside early in the morning, while some people sleep until the sun is high in the sky and really regard themselves as the mistress. When serving the dishes, the sound of the plates landing on the marble table was very loud, showing Nanny's unhappy mood. I consumed too much energy last night. I was starving just now, but now I have no appetite. I heated a cup of milk by myself and was about to go upstairs. Suddenly, the news genius painter Alice returns to China today was broadcast on TV. Nanny was afraid that I wouldn't hear it and turned the volume up to the maximum. I stopped on the stairs and turned to look at the TV. In the picture, Alice in an elegant long dress appeared at the airport, and the man John, who was still intimate with me last night, personally picked her up. John stood upright with a cold face and took Alice's suitcase. Alice stood in front of him, looking up with affectionate eyes, and said, "John, did you miss me?" I didn't hear what John said because Nanny was so excited that her high-pitched voice was choked with sobs. God, the young master finally looks forward to Miss Alice's return. The lovers finally get married. Some people should take the initiative to leave if they have self-awareness. Her contemptuous eyes slanted and fell on my face. The meaning was self-evident. I lowered my eyes sadly and was a bit distracted. I didn't expect Alice to return half a year earlier. As the storyline advanced, it seems that my escape plan also needs to be advanced. I didn't care about the milk and called a black car driver. The destination was a small town thousands of kilometers away. John has always been generous. The pocket money he gave me plus the money I got from selling bags and jewelry is enough for me to live without worry for the rest of my life. I know that according to the plot design, John will be with Alice tonight and won't come back. After all, when the white moonlight appears, the sense of existence of the substitute will be minimized, so I have plenty of time to run away. I changed my clothes and, like nesting dolls, put big bags inside small bags and carried the 3 limited edition bags out. Nanny was cracking melon seeds with a sarcastic smile on her lips. "Where are you going?" "Going shopping," spit out the vixen. "You only know how to spend the young master's money all day long." Nanny spat the melon seed shells into the air. John had a meeting in the morning and used his lunch break to pick up Alice at the airport. After all, the two grew up in the same compound and his mother specifically told him to be polite. After John sent Alice home, Alice originally asked him to stay for a while, but John wanted to finish the work at hand as soon as possible and hurried back to the company. During the busy work, he picked up his phone several times. He wanted to see if the little bird at home had called him. However, he raised a heartless little bird, except when receiving gifts. She never took the initiative to contact him. On weekdays, she didn't have the slightest awareness of being a girlfriend. She neither asked about his whereabouts nor checked on him. Just like this time, he was on a business trip for half a month and missed her so much that he asked her to accompany him, but she said that she didn't want to affect his work. I really don't know if she is sensible or heartless. Now looking at the empty phone screen, John smiled bitterly. Sure enough, she's a little heartless one. In the afternoon, Alice called him to attend her welcome banquet, but he was thinking about the little fairy at home and declined the invitation and rushed home after work. On the way, he bought the red spider lilies that Mary liked the most. The enchanting and charming red color, swaying and graceful, was very much like her. "Where's Mary?" he asked. Nanny replied politely, "She went shopping early in the morning and hasn't come back yet." John smiled helplessly. He clearly said that he would come back early, but she still went out. "When she comes back, he'll see how to deal with her. I'll take a nap first. Wake me up when Mary comes back." Mary took off the torn nightgown and threw it casually at the head of the bed. John lay beside her and slept soundly. The tip of his nose was filled with Mary's fragrance and his drain was full of Mary's cute and charming appearance, making his breathing unsteady. But at the end of the dream, Mary's smile disappeared and her eyes were like ice. When she looked at him, her eyes were full of hatred that seemed to swallow him up. John woke up with a headache. It was pitch black outside the window. John looked at the time and it was already over 9 o'clock. "Mary," he called subconsciously, after calling several times. Nanny answered outside the door. "Miss Mary went shopping and hasn't come back yet. I really don't know how much she needs to buy." John felt a bit stuffy in his chest and called Mary, but a cold mechanical voice came. "Sorry, the number you dialed is empty." He sensed something was wrong and immediately checked the cloakroom. Mary's clothes were all there, but the precious bags and jewelry were all gone, including the 3 bags he just bought. John realized that something was wrong and urgently ordered his assistant, "Immediately contact the Ministry of Communications and stop Mary by any means and bring her back to me." The night was dark, like a big curtain pressing down from the sky, making people feel stuffy in the heart. John stood silently by the window, looking into the endless darkness, with an oppressive coldness all around him. Behind him were a dozen trembling servants. "If Mary comes back unharmed, you'll at most be poor for the rest of your lives. If she loses a single hair, I'll make your life a living hell." Everyone was scared out of their wits. Nanny has worked in the John family for nearly 20 years and thought she was an old-timer. She bravely stepped forward. "Young master, now that Miss Alice has returned, why are you still looking for that vixen? She only knows how to spend your money every day. How can she compare with Miss Alice, who is from a famous family and is well-educated and reasonable?" John slowly turned his head and his eyes were as terrifying as if they were real. "Vixen, is that what you usually call her?" The murderous look in his eyes was intimidating and Nanny staggered back a few steps, stammering and too scared to speak for a long time. "What the hell are you?" John said word by word through gritted teeth. He never thought that the darling he held in his palm and was reluctant to even speak loudly to would be looked down upon by the servants like this. What's wrong with Mary spending his money? Isn't he earning money for her to spend? He didn't even dare to think about what would happen if he didn't have money and Mary didn't like him. He gave his subordinates a look and said in an indifferent tone, "Take her away and let her see her place." Nanny was instantly scared out of her wits. She had heard of John's cruelty. It's just that in recent years, because John always spoiled Mary, and no matter how Mary threw tantrums, he spoiled and indulged her as if he had no temper. Nanny also forgot John's nature. He took over the family business at a young age and killed all those who coveted the John family's property and stood in this position today. Now, seeing the bloodthirsty scarlet in John's eyes, Nanny panicked and predicted that she was in great danger. She was about to scream when someone stuffed a rag into her mouth and dragged her out like a rag. Until late at night, there was still no news of Mary. John clenched his fists tightly and the veins on his forehead bulged. He extremely suppressed his emotions to prevent himself from exploding. At this time, the servant said that Miss Alice had come. John frowned. "Miss Alice, I have other things to deal with now. I'm sorry I can't accompany you." Alice grabbed John's sleeve. "Look at these pictures." John almost couldn't control his irritability. He didn't like others touching him, except for Mary. No one dared to touch him usually. He unceremoniously brushed off Alice's hand. A hint of gloom crossed Alice's eyes, but she persisted in handing the pictures to him. "It's about Mary." John froze instantly. Before Alice could speak again, he took the pictures. The pictures were indeed of Mary, recording her from college to now. Mary in college was shyly leaning in the arms of her first boyfriend. Later, the two broke up and Mary met John. However, she never cut off contact with her first boyfriend and the two often met privately. Yesterday morning, Mary left home furtively and entered an alley where her first boyfriend was waiting for her, opened the car door for her and left with her. John suddenly seemed to lose all his strength and staggered and almost fell, and the pictures also scattered on the ground. Alice said at the right time, "John, that woman is only after your money. Maybe she has been using your money to support other men. Do you still want to find such a woman?" John's eyes were blank and dull and his heartache twisted into an unresolvable scar. Mary really doesn't like him, so she doesn't care about his whereabouts, doesn't get jealous of other women and rarely loses her temper with him. She's so obedient just because what she wants is not him. She's really heartless. He restrained his hostility and dedicated thousands of tenderness to her, but still couldn't move her heart. John has always been able to plan and succeed in everything, but now in front of feelings, he has to admit defeat and embarrassment. He waved his hand, "Call the people back." Then, his eyes were filled with gloomy coldness and he said to himself, "Mary, run away as far as you can and don't let me see you again, otherwise, I don't know what crazy things I'll do." Rose is my first boyfriend. After being with me, he found out that he was gay. Later, we became sisters. This time, He helped me arrange the car for my escape. Everything went smoothly during the day, but there was a traffic jam in front when we were about to get off the highway at night. It seems that they are looking for a woman with a huge reward. Rose and I looked at each other in dismay and were too scared to breathe. We had to move forward with the traffic flow, but when it was almost our turn, the staff in uniform suddenly shouted, "Withdraw, withdraw." After working all night, the bigwig said not to look for her anymore. Obviously, I should have been relieved, but my heart felt like I had drunk lemon juice, sour and astringent. "John, you gave up on me so easily. The female supporting role is really dispensable and unimportant." I wiped the moisture from the corners of my eyes. Let's go. For years later, late at night, under the lamp, I was red-eyed from making kindergarten handicrafts. And it was 2 copies. I was crying while making them and felt extremely wronged. Who would have thought that I got pregnant after that crazy night, and it was twins? I have a cold constitution, and the old Chinese doctor said that it's extremely difficult for me to get pregnant in my life. Originally, John always took contraceptive measures, but after occasionally experiencing the pleasure without obstruction and getting used to it, I couldn't accept that rubber membrane anymore. There was no problem for several years. I didn't expect to get pregnant the last time, and it was 2 at once. I have a cold and immune constitution. An old Chinese doctor once said that it would be extremely difficult for me to get pregnant in my life. Originally, John always took contraceptive measures, but once in a while, when I got a taste of the unobstructed pleasure, after that, I just couldn't stand the feeling of that rubbery thing anymore. For several years, nothing went wrong, unexpectedly. I got pregnant the last time, and it was twins at once. While spreading glue on the colored paper, I cursed John to be impotent for the rest of his life. He could still be a carefree single nobleman after pulling up his pants, while I got out of bed and became a single mom taking care of 2 kids. Why is it always women who get hurt? Rose sent me a news link, followed by a voice message. "Honey, your former sugar daddy is getting engaged," on my phone. Alice was holding an art exhibition and John went to cut the ribbon. Standing together, they were a perfect match, both talented and good-looking. Alice smiled happily in front of the camera and said, "John and I will hold an engagement ceremony next month." Shocked, my hand trembled, and I accidentally cut the paper airplane I just glued together. I had to start over. Immediately, I started crying even louder. I thought I could seal my heart, lock away my love, and leave completely. But when I heard the news of John's engagement, I still felt a deep, stabbing pain. Those years of being together day and night, all the intimate moments, had truly happened between him and me. How could they be so easily forgotten? Now, the plot of the male and female leads is developing as it was set. John should have completely gotten over me, right? This vicious female supporting character, could survive until now, all because I knew the plot in advance and managed to escape from the male lead in time. I called Rose. "Rose, I need to go on a business trip for 2 days. Can you look after the kids for me?" Rose was speechless. "Just say you want me to watch the kids. How come you, a secretary, are always going on business trips?" "It's for real this time," I said. "My boss is going to Beijing to negotiate a cooperation." Allegedly. The leader of the other party is extremely difficult to deal with and doesn't take our small company seriously at all, but my boss has the ambition to go public in 3 years, so he decided to make this trip himself. Since I'm the prettiest secretary in the company, he likes to bring me along on these occasions, saying it makes the company look more prestigious. He promised me a promotion and a raise if the deal goes through. I haven't dared to go back to Beijing in recent years. But now that John is getting engaged, there shouldn't be any more intersections between us. I got quite a lot of money from John back then, but who would have thought that with these 2 money-guzzling kids, money just flows out like water. Because of them, my career ambitions have been sparked. I said, "Boss, I won't do anything that involves selling my looks. I have 2 kids at home, and they can't grow up without a mom. Mary, don't worry, I'm a law-abiding citizen." He patted his chest to assure me. After giving birth, my body seemed to have a second growth spurt. The curvy parts got even curvier, the slender parts more slender, and my figure was more alluring. I wore a form-fitting red dress and entered a private room with my boss. A representative of the other party, who knew my boss well, asked in confusion, "Jack, Why did you bring such a beautiful secretary? My boss chuckled, since heroes have always had a weakness for beauties. I thought having Mary toast your boss a glass of wine might seal the deal. The other person laughed. Jack, you've got the wrong idea this time. Our President John is not interested in women, and he's about to get engaged anyway. President John, engaged? My heart skipped a beat. Could it be such a coincidence? The private room was noisy. I craned my neck, struggling to look through the crowd. In the middle of the sofa, sitting like a king surrounded by people, was a noble man. Under the flickering lights, the outline of his side face was sharp and angular, his eyes deep-set, showing no emotions, but exuding the intimidating aura of someone in power. It was none other than John. He had a calm expression, listening to the man on his right reporting, seeming to sense my gaze. John lifted his cold eyes. For a moment, our eyes met. My boss, hearing what the other representative said, realized his miscalculation and was quite discouraged. He was about to let me go back. I took the chance to escape, but John gently hooked his finger, the corner of his lips curving into a dangerous arc. Come here. In the private room, although it seemed lively, everyone actually kept an eye on John while chatting. When John suddenly spoke, everyone stopped what they were doing. The room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Everyone followed John's line of sight. My boss couldn't believe it and asked with a pleasantly surprised look, Me? John said faintly, You go back. Someone will contact you to sign the contract. Leave her here. My boss immediately beamed. Thank you, President John. Mary, perform well. The company will give you a bonus if this works out. Then, without caring about my fate at all, he rushed out the door, afraid that John would change his mind. So much for being law-abiding. Bosses are all liars. The door of the private room closed. With no way out, I reluctantly sat down beside John under everyone's gaze. He continued listening to the man on his right reporting, as if he had forgotten about my existence. I secretly grabbed a few pistachios. In the past, when I accompanied John to business dinners, while he was talking about business, I'd snack on the side, even though he was chatting with others coldly, seemingly fully focused. Whenever I had a snack that I couldn't reach, he'd always stretch out his long arm, put the delicious treat into my palm, and give my fingertips a little pinch. Tonight, the pistachios were hard to crack. It took me a while to get a few into my mouth. John suddenly turned around. Didn't your boss bring you here for PR? Are you waiting for me to toast you? I quickly put down the half-cracked pistachio and picked up my wine glass. President John, I'd like to toast you. He leaned back against the sofa, narrowing his eyes slightly. Toast me for what? Toast you. Wish you a happy engagement. John's lips curved upwards, his smile deepening, but his eyes showed even more coldness. With his slender fingers, he picked up the red wine beside him and poured it into a row of goblets one by one. Whether I'm happy about my engagement depends on how sincere you are with this toast. He pointed at the row of red wine. I peeked at him cautiously. Just drinking is okay. Don't I need to? John snorted. What kind of person does Miss Mary take me for? Do you think I'd be interested in a brainless bimbo like you? My eyes instantly felt sour, and I forced back my tears. I picked up the first glass and downed it in one go. With your noble status, President John, you surely look down on me. Because I drank too quickly, the wine choked into my throat, and I coughed while clutching my chest. John stared at me coldly. Mary, playing the victim won't work on me. I won't feel sorry for you. I know. I picked up the second glass and gulped it down. I didn't mean to play the victim, nor did I expect you to feel sorry for me. I'm just a vicious female supporting character. Being humiliated as cannon fodder is my fate. Now that the white moonlight is back, how could John possibly feel sorry for me? John's face grew even darker, his jawline tense, his eyes deep and gloomy. Mary, beg me, and maybe I'll let you go. I beg you. I complied without hesitation. I've always had a poor alcohol tolerance. After 2 glasses, I felt dizzy and my face was burning. If I drank too much and something uncontrollable happened, no one here could save me. Do I need to teach you how to beg? John's voice was cold and smooth, without a hint of warmth, digging my nails into my palms. I bit my lip. Although I felt humiliated, I had to compromise. I stood up, straddled John's lap, and leaned down to press my lips against his slightly cold ones. John's body tensed up instantly but didn't move, showing no response. He signaled with his eyes for me to continue. I placed my hands on his chest, my cheek close to his, my warm breath on his ear, and begged softly, "John, please, let me go." "That's it," he scoffed. I had to lower my head again. John has a bit of a masochistic streak. He likes it when I bite him. His lips, the tip of his tongue, his Adam's apple, and his collarbone, these parts can all trigger strong reactions from him. He always looks cold and abstinent, with his shirt buttons fastened all the way to the top. In fact, he's really a closet flirt. He can't resist the slightest provocation. I lowered my head, and my teeth touched his Adam's apple. "There are so many people watching," I said shyly, feeling the rise and fall of John's chest. I didn't want to continue. John took a deep breath. With a large hand, he scooped me up from under my knees. Before I could react, my body was already in the air and landed in John's arms. Instinctively, I wrapped my arms around his neck and buried my face in his chest. John used to be so gentle, but now he's so fierce and ruthless. When I was thrown onto the bed, the red wine in my stomach was sloshing around, making my eyes teary, and I cried out in surprise. John unfastened his tie with one hand while roughly kissing me, tying my hands up and raising them above my head. "John, it hurts. Endure it," he said coldly. He was not the least bit gentle, forcefully parting my legs. His body was hot, his muscles solid, and his eyes blazing with intense desire, as if he wanted to devour me alive. I tremblingly reached out and grabbed the collar of his shirt, seeming surprised by my initiative. John stared at me with burning eyes. "Can you be a bit gentler?" I pleaded pitifully. John's eyes showed a bit of interest, waiting for me to keep acting cute. I bit my lower lip and summoned the courage. "I'm afraid of getting marks on my body and being discovered by my husband." The rising heat seemed to cool down in an instant. The desire in John's eyes was replaced by shock, and finally turned into self-mockery. He pinched my chin, forcing me to look at him. With his other hand, he hooked the messy shoulder straps of my dress back up in a dejected and wanton gesture. "Mary, this is the last time. If I'm ever bewitched by you again, I'll be your grandson." Anger burst from his deep eyes, and I even suspected that he could strangle me in the next second. But when he saw the pool of tears in my eyes due to the pain, he unconsciously loosened his grip on my chin. Endless pain flooded his eyes. He murmured, "Did you look at him like this when you were in bed with him?" Forget it. Don't say it. I'm not interested." John rolled off the bed, his back to me, and said in a commanding tone, "I'm getting engaged next month. You're coming. Do I have to? If you dare not come, I'll kill that man in minutes." Right after John left, Alice came. She banged on the door. When she saw that I was the only one in the room, she was clearly stunned. "Where's John?" "President John arranged for me to stay here and then left," Alice cursed. "Mary, have you no shame? John is about to get engaged to me, and you're back to pester him. John only regarded you as my substitute. Now that I'm back, do you think he'd still fancy a parasitic woman like you?" I lowered my head and admitted my fault. Yes, of course he wouldn't. Miss Alice is like the bright moon in the clouds, while I'm just the mud underfoot. How could I compare to you, Miss Alice? Please don't get angry because of me. Don't lower yourself to my level. It's not worth getting your hands dirty." Alice was left speechless as I stole her lines. She stood there for a while before finding her voice again. "At least you know your place. John is not someone you can dream of." Yes. Alice's final departing look was very puzzling. She probably had never seen someone like me who was so eager to self-deprecate and admit faults actively. But what else could I do? I thought that escaping to this remote small town would allow me to safely hide until the end of the story. But now, the three of us are intertwined again, and in the end of this entanglement, the outcome of the female supporting character getting hurt alone is about to come true. So, I can only take the initiative to back off, not make Alice see me as a thorn in her side, and avoid all conflicts. The company's project was successfully negotiated, and I returned safely to the small town. I got my share of the bonus, and my position was promoted, but my workload also increased. After work, I dragged my exhausted body to pick up my 2 kids from kindergarten. My sister said her stomach hurt. I carried her in my right arm, holding the groceries in the same hand, and held my brother's hand with my left, already completely worn out. my brother suddenly threw a tantrum and refused to walk, insisting that I carry him too. I tried to pick him up, but I lost my balance, and the three of us fell to the ground together. I shielded my sister in my arms. My brother and I both got scrapes. The grievance in my heart reached its peak at this moment. I hugged one kid with each arm and sat on the ground, crying like a fool. The two kids cried along with me. My brother sensibly touched my face with his small hand. "Mom, I'm sorry. I won't let you carry me anymore." My tears flowed even more freely. I wanted to tell him that Mom just needed to cry for a while to feel better, but I opened my mouth for a long time, only to be choked up and unable to say a word. It was at this moment that John appeared. I was sitting on the vegetable leaves, holding the two kids, looking extremely wretched. John was in a custom-made suit, looking imposing, his leather shoes polished brightly. He frowned and asked, "Where's your husband?" "On a business trip." I wiped away my tears. "With two kids at home? What kind of business trip is he on?" I thought he was going to mock me when I was down. After all, according to the novel's plot, when I was bullied by that pervert, he just walked away without looking back. John crouched down rather indignantly and reached out to my brother and sister. "Your mom is tired. Can Uncle hold you for a while?" The two kids shrank into my arms. John forced a smile, a gentle look on his usually stern face. "Uncle is not a bad guy. I'm a friend of your mom's." My brother looked at me, and I nodded, mainly because I really had no strength left, and the scrape on my arm hurt. My brother first stretched out his chubby arms and climbed into John's arms. My sister followed suit and got into the other side. John picked up the two kids and sighed helplessly. "These two kids together weigh 60 pounds. You used to complain about being tired when asked to do a little work. Now you're quite capable." I caught the hidden meaning in his "do a little work" and blushed, scolding him. "Don't talk nonsense in front of my kids," he snorted. "Why aren't you getting up? I can't carry three of you. Who asked you to carry me? My feet are numb." I lowered my head, wishing I could disappear into a crack in the ground. John was silent for a few seconds, then stood in front of me. I looked up, following his shiny black leather shoes, up along his long legs wrapped in suit pants, and met his inky black eyes. He didn't say anything, but perhaps because of the tacit understanding we had built over the years, I raised my arm, hugged his right leg, and used the strength to stand up. I must have looked like a clumsy monkey. My sister, who developed her language skills early, saw this and said, "Mom doesn't let us hug your thigh. Why can you hug Uncle's thigh?" I managed to stand up and quickly distanced myself from John. "You hug my legs to act cute. It's different for me." John chuckled, seemingly in a good mood. "You look even more like you're acting cute." I was so embarrassed that I didn't know what to do. Then my brother said, "Uncle is taller than Dad. I can see farther." John's face, which had been smiling secretly just now, turned completely dark. John helped me carry the kids home. I first checked the injuries of the two children and put some medicine on them. I was about to go into the kitchen when John was puzzled. "Don't you need to deal with the scrape on your arm? It's okay. I'll make dinner for them first," John said unhappily. "Come here." When he was angry, he frowned, his lips pursed tightly, looking really intimidating, so I obediently sat down. John rolled up my sleeve, revealing the large scrape on my elbow. John frowned, his brows knitted with anger, and he used a cotton swab to clean it for me. I hissed in pain. "Now you know it hurts." I pouted. I knew it hurt all along, but what could I do? John put some iodine on it for me, looking straight at me. "So you like that man that much? You left the villa and came to this poor, remote place, making yourself so miserable. Love is all you need. Haven't you heard of that?" I retorted stubbornly. "Fine, Mary, you're really something." John rarely gave me a thumbs up. While I was cooking, John played with the two kids, building blocks with them, and they had a great time together. My sister even coquettishly sat in John's arms. Watching this warm family scene, my eyes got a bit teary. I never thought that one day, these two kids could play with their biological father like this. After a simple dinner, I started to clean the house, bathe the kids, and put them to bed. Then my sister said, "Mom, I forgot to tell you, the kindergarten assigned another handicraft homework today. We need to make big dinosaurs." "Mom, I want a triceratops. I want a Tyrannosaurus Rex, a really big one." My brother excitedly stretched out his arms to show the size. I immediately got angry. Why does your kindergarten keep assigning handicraft homework? It's supposed to be quality education, but you're too young to do it. It's all the parents who end up doing it. Is it the kids going to kindergarten or the parents? The two kids didn't understand my complaints at all, blinking their big eyes. Mom, you can do it, come on. When I rubbed my shoulders and came out of the bedroom, John was looking through the photo album of the two kids. Why are you still here? I'm leaving soon. Yeah. I was too busy to care about him and took out the handicraft box. What are you doing? John asked in confusion. It's past 10 o'clock. Why aren't you going to sleep, making big dinosaurs? Can't you see? John had a mocking smile in his eyes. Mary, you've really improved a lot. I understood John's surprise. After all, I used to be very clumsy. Before, I thought it was interesting to watch John shave, so I insisted on helping him. As a result, I cut him, and the bleeding wouldn't stop for a long time. I pouted and cried. Does it hurt a lot? John hugged me in his arms with a laugh. Yeah, it hurts. It'll only get better if you give me a kiss. That was one of the few times I took the initiative to please him and tried my best to amuse him. John got so excited that he forced me to look at myself in the mirror. I looked so seductive. Thinking about it now, I still feel ashamed. While I was in a daze, John took the initiative to pull over the handicraft box. What do we need to make? I'll help you. You go to sleep. My eyes lit up when I heard that, and I stretched out my arms to show the size. Dinosaurs this big, one Triceratops and one Tyrannosaurus Rex. My arms were much longer than my brother's, and I grinned slyly. There was indulgence in John's eyes. Okay, when you wake up tomorrow morning, the big dinosaurs will be done. That night, I slept extremely well. When I woke up in the morning, John had already left, and two exquisite big dinosaurs were placed on the coffee table. There was also a small pterosaur beside them. John left a sticky note. There wasn't enough material, so I made you a small one. The two kids were overjoyed. Mom, this time the other kids definitely won't laugh at us. But the happiness didn't last long. I had just arrived at the company when Rose called me. Honey, my leg is broken. Who did this righteous deed? I joked. John, are you serious? I was so scared that I stood up. I rushed to the hospital. Rose was lying in the emergency room of the hospital with a bruised face, and his right leg was fixed with a splint. Why did he hit you? How would I know? I was coming out of the hotel with my boyfriend this morning, as soon as we turned into the alley. John started punching and kicking me without asking any questions. He also said that if I did anything to betray you, he'd beat me up once a day. Where's your boyfriend? Rose looked grief-stricken. When he saw me getting beaten, he ran away. I didn't expect him to be such a scumbag. Come on, Mary, what's going on between you two? You two are causing trouble. Don't drag me into it, I said embarrassedly. I told him you were my husband. You're going to get me killed. Rose's face turned green with fear. I'll go and explain it clearly to him. You lie down. I'll pay your medical bills. Take this chance to break up with that boyfriend of yours. Why did you hit Rose? For years later, I dialed John's number again. Didn't you say he was on a business trip? Can't he come back from a business trip? Mary, he's not on a business trip. He's cheating on you. He lied to you about being on a business trip. But he was actually having a room with someone in a hotel 3 kilometers from your home. John's tone was full of gritted teeth. So what if he's cheating? It's just a mistake that all men in the world make. No matter what he does, it won't change the fact that I love him. John was so speechless. Mary, listen to what you're saying. I didn't expect you to be such a lovesick fool. If you knew who he was cheating with, I wonder if you could still say these noble words. Who is he cheating with? An alien? He's fucking. Forget it. I'm afraid it'll disgust you if I say it. I couldn't help but laugh. It's just a man. After all, I softened my tone. John, don't go after Rose anymore. What's the point? Am I going to divorce him? And then what? I'm a 30-year-old divorced woman with 2 kids. Are you going to marry me? I knew John too well. He's a Virgo, naturally fastidious. Especially when it comes to relationships. How could he possibly accept me? A woman who had been married and had 2 children. Now that Alice had returned to China, they were the perfect couple set by the plot. He came here now, probably more out of unwillingness. John was silent for a long time. John, go back to Beijing. We're not from the same world." Then I hung up the call resolutely. Less than half an hour later, Rose called me again. What are you so happy about?" I asked in confusion. My front teeth are gone. I can't speak clearly." His voice was tinged with sobs. "Rose, how could you lose your teeth at your age?" John came to the hospital to beat me up again." John must be crazy, since he couldn't win the argument with me. He went to beat Rose. Where is he? He's been taken to the police station." By now, the good mood brought by the two big dinosaurs had completely disappeared. I called John, but I couldn't get through. His phone was probably confiscated. I first went to the hospital to comfort Rose. The doctor said that 2 of his front teeth had been knocked out and couldn't be put back. He could only get new ones implanted in a few days. I spent several months' salary on his medical bills. "Rose, when the police contact you, say that John didn't hit you on purpose. He accidentally hurt you while joking with you." "I don't agree," Rose refused angrily. "If you don't agree, the brother and sister won't call you dad anymore, because of his sexual orientation." Rose probably wouldn't have his own children in this lifetime, so he cherished the brother and sister very much. Under my coercion and bribery, he chose to reconcile. Then I rushed to the police station. I was just about to find someone to ask where John was being held when someone grabbed my arm and slapped me hard across the face. I wasn't prepared and fell heavily to the ground. Alice, in a custom-made long dress, looked haughty as she slowly withdrew her hand. Even though there were so many people watching, because of Alice's status, no one dared to help me up. Alice looked down at me, her eyes full of jealous rage. "Mary, you said you wouldn't pester John. Now that your marriage has problems, you want to drag John down. John has left the huge business in Beijing just because of you and has come here to beat people like a hooligan. When has he ever been so impulsive? Mary, you just want to see me make a fool of myself, right? For 4 years. John has been reluctant to be with me. Now that I'm finally about to get engaged to him, you deliberately seduce him and make me lose face. But I'm telling you, I, Alice, am not someone to be trifled with. Since you overestimate yourself, don't blame me for being rude to you." I was lying on the ground, my body trembling involuntarily. How could I forget? She's the female lead. She comes from a superior family. Crushing me would be as easy as crushing an ant. No matter how much I struggle, I'll end up as her foil. She's the center of attention, the one that the male lead's eyes are always on. Fearing the torture, I stammered, "Miss Alice, I'll leave right away. I won't contact John ever again." John was temporarily detained at the police station. Alice brought a lawyer. He wasn't worried at all. At most, he'd just pay that scumbag a sum of money. Since that man used to live off Mary, he probably didn't have much backbone. He was just thinking about Mary's problem. I'll divorce him, and then what? I'm a 30-year-old divorced woman with 2 kids. Are you going to marry me? In the past, he would have scoffed at such a question. John, came from a prominent family and was handsome. He could have any woman he wanted. How could he want a used woman? But now, he was seriously thinking about this question, because that woman was Mary, the Mary who made him think about day and night and couldn't sleep. For years ago, he let her go, planning never to see her again. But once the longing started, it was like a flood, devouring him completely. Since seeing Mary again, he realized that the pretended indifference was just because of his pride. In fact, he cared a great deal. While hating Mary for being half-hearted, he missed her desperately. So much that it hurt. Over the years, his mother had been trying to match him with Alice, and Alice was always trying to get his attention, showing concern for him. He was so annoyed. Anyway, he had to marry someone, so in the end, he agreed to get engaged to Alice to shut his mother up. But when he saw Mary again, all his compromises and half-heartedness collapsed. Every part of his body, every organ in his brain, was screaming. He didn't want any other woman, he only wanted Mary. Once he figured this out, John felt extremely at ease. He leaned against the wall of the police station and had the most peaceful sleep in 4 years. The lawyer was very efficient, and John was soon released. He walked out quickly, looking for Mary in the crowd, but Mary wasn't there. A trace of loss and loneliness flashed through John's eyes. Alice walked up to him with a concerned look and hugged his waist tightly. "John, I was so worried about you." John came to his senses and pushed Alice away. "Mary, Isn't she here? Alice stamped her foot angrily. Don't mention that woman. You were trying to stand up for her and teach her husband a lesson, but she felt so sorry for him that she's been staying at the hospital with her husband. John, you don't know. She even colluded with her husband to blackmail us for a large sum of money before agreeing to a private settlement and letting you out. John stood there in a daze, unable to react for a long time. He suddenly laughed at his own delusion just now. He was willing to put aside the past and welcome Mary back because he loved her, but wasn't Mary also deeply in love with her husband? No matter what mistakes that man made, she still loved him wholeheartedly, raising 2 children for him. John, you're really fucking cheap, John murmured. After that day, John returned to Beijing. Sometimes, dress. I turned around and locked the door, shutting everyone out. John heard the commotion and turned around. The moment he saw me, he froze for a few seconds, then slowly raised his long fingers and rubbed his temples. Am I hallucinating? I walked up to him and looked straight into his eyes. John, do you still love Alice? John realized that I was truly standing in front of him. He put away his exhaustion and wanted to reach out to touch the top of my head, but just before he did, he withdrew his hand. He gave a bitter smile and let his hand fall to his trouser seam. Then, with one hand in his pocket, he put on a relaxed expression. Why do you say still? I clenched my fists and summoned my courage. Answer my question. He sighed, his tone helpless. I've never loved her. How can there be a still? Sure enough, it was different from the original plot. In the original story, the male lead had loved Alice since childhood and was unwavering. At that moment, my heart constricted, and tears welled up in my eyes instantly. My voice choked as I said, then, if I'm here to stop the wedding today, will you come with me? John tilted his head, scrutinizing me carefully, seeing the determination on my face. He smiled. Darling, I've been waiting for you. There's no need to stop it. I'll come with you willingly. When I walked out holding John's hand, Alice was furiously directing people to pry the door open. When she saw our clasped hands, she was completely incredulous. John took the initiative to speak. I'm sorry, Miss Alice, our engagement is off. Why? Alice shrieked, her voice full of grief. She glared at me, her expression ferocious. It's all because of you, you slut. You changed the plot. I'll kill you and put everything back the way it was. With that, Alice charged at me, but before she could get close, John lifted his long leg and kicked her to the ground. Now I believed that he had never loved her, because John used all his strength. Alice lay on the ground, spitting out blood. She clutched her chest, heartbroken. John, you hit me for this slut. John looked indifferent. If you keep talking dirty, I'll send you to your death right now. His tone was ruthless and decisive, sending chills down one's spine. Alice burst into tears. Why? I'm the female lead. She's just a cannon fodder. I'm the one who should have all your love. I couldn't believe it. You know about the plot too. John, if you fall in love with the supporting actress and don't follow the plot, there will be consequences. Alice screamed. John looked at me in confusion. I looked back at him. John was so smart that he immediately grasped the key point and asked, Mary, is this why you left me? I scratched his big hand guiltily. I'm sorry. Since I knew about the plot, I've been running away passively, but now, I have the courage to fight against the whole world. No one can separate us. The world seemed to be running in a different way. Alice was boycotted by the entire art world because of the plagiarism scandal. The original painters, who had been too afraid to speak out due to the Alice family's power, sued Alice for plagiarism one after another. Alice was sentenced to 1 year in prison and fined for infringing on others' copyrights and having a large amount of illegal income. From then on, her protagonist halo completely disappeared. When I saw this news, John was playing with my brother and sister on the floor at my home. He said he wanted to build a relationship with the kids so that they would accept him as their stepfather. Earlier, after I put the kids to sleep, I came out in my nightgown, my curves on full display. John's eyes darkened, but he forced himself to look away. Only his rolling Adam's apple betrayed his current restlessness. I deliberately swayed in front of him, staying tantalizingly close. John finally couldn't hold back and pulled me onto his lap. I traced circles on his chest, and he grabbed my hand, his voice hoarse. Darling, you're still not divorced. It's not good for you, so, don't test me. He buried his nose in my neck, trying to calm his agitated body. I tilted my head and bit his earlobe. John let out a muffled groan. Do you want it? I teased. No, he was holding back. Rose and I never got married, so there's no need for a divorce, I said softly. John looked up at me in disbelief. The next second, he laid me down on the couch.
John's eyes were red at the corners, and his chest heaved violently. "Darling, I'm going to get back everything you owed me 4 years ago. John, be gentler," I pounded on him. "Darling, I can't. It misses you too much." John and I got married. However, I never told him that my brother and sister were his children. I was still worried that someday, the plot would develop as it was set in the book, so I always wanted to leave a way out for the kids and not involve them. At night, after John learned to put my brother and sister to sleep, he still made me so weak in the legs. I had a dream in his arms. In the dream, the original plot was changed. The vicious female supporting role got the upper hand and became a happy winner in life. When I got up, I went to find John barefoot, wanting to tell him this news, but I saw several lawyers in suits standing in the living room. John glanced disapprovingly at my bare feet and picked me up horizontally, putting me on the couch. "Mary, today, I invited lawyers to do the estate notarization." "Estate notarization? Why are you doing that at such a young age?" I was puzzled. "Nobody knows which will come first, tomorrow or the future. It won't hurt to do it early. It's just, Mary, I thought about what I said before about giving all my property to your brother and sister, and on second thought, it's not quite appropriate, so I want to make some changes." John seemed to be asking for my opinion, looking deeply into my eyes. I felt a bit sour, sure enough, in his eyes. Since he thought my brother and sister were Rose's children, he wouldn't give all his love to them. People just don't cherish children they didn't raise. Of course, it was also my fault for not telling him the truth. When human nature was revealed, I was also hurt. I forced myself to stay calm and said, "It's okay. It doesn't matter if you don't give it to them. I can work to support them." John seemed dissatisfied with my reaction. Ignoring the presence of others, he pinched my waist and put me on his lap, his forehead against mine. "Darling, I'll keep my promise. It's just that, compared to those 2 kids, I want to plan more for you, so if something unexpected happens to me, 50% of my property will go to you, and the rest will be divided equally between the 2 kids." I choked up immediately. I finally understood why the original plot had changed. It was because John's love for Mary was so persistent that it couldn't follow the author's original intention, so, the author made concessions. I hooked my arms around John's neck and pulled him down. "John, Rose and I never even kissed. Those 2 kids are yours." Extra chapter. In my senior year of university, John returned to the school as an outstanding alumnus to give a speech. He was noble, upright, and had an extraordinary temperament. I was immediately smitten. I deliberately dropped my books. John gracefully bent down, stretched out his long hand, and picked them up one by one, handing them to me. I looked at him, my heart pounding. "Senior, do you have a girlfriend?" He curved his lips. "Not yet. Do you think I'm suitable?" John seemed surprised by my directness and was stunned for a moment. Then he gave a faint smile and didn't answer. After his speech, he went down to the dim underground garage. I was waiting there in advance. "Senior, you still haven't answered me." He raised an eyebrow. "So persistent." "Of course, the brave ones get to enjoy the world first." So, I enjoyed the world with the best man in the world.